Welcome everyone to another Player 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rade Stojsavljevic.
And I am your co-host, Dave Leary.
All right, so let's talk about what's going on in the games business this week. Some interesting stuff. Saw Tim Sweeney showed up at a Unity press conference, announced Unreal games are going to be able to make it into Fortnite.
That's pretty wild, huh? Did you ever think you would see that?
No, I mean, it's not like those two companies have an antagonistic relationship. I just didn't see a potential collaboration. And I think, to me, it just speaks about how much Fortnite is really not so much a game as it is a platform. And it's been like that for a while now.
I've been heading in that direction for sure. I know a couple of developers who have done okay working in that space. This feels like it's just going to widen out that space a little more for even more people to use.
Yeah.
Nothing but positives from my perspective, I guess. It is still a closed ecosystem kind of controlled by Epic, so it has all those issues, but positive move in general, I think.
It's still, like, technically, I'm like, well, hold on a minute. You're putting an engine in an engine. Like, how's that going to work? Love to see it and see how it works out. And I think it's a great idea. Other stuff going on. We got the Video Game Awards coming up. Man, this is a really good year for games. There's a lot of great content nominated.
Very good year. Were you struck by anything in particular in the Game of the Year nominees?
No, it didn't really surprise me. I mean, I would have, maybe it's just biased because I've been playing a lot of it. I would have thought Arc Raiders would have garnered a lot more nominations, but, Claire Obscura and, the other nominations, just, it's not surprising. They're all fantastic.
I guess one thing I was struck by was that Claire Obscura was the only Game of the Year nominee that was not a sequel or a spin-off in some space, right? Everything else in that is a sequel or a spin-off, which is kind of a little bit bleak in a way for the state of the industry, but,
Yeah, but they're really good.
They are really good. They're all really good, yeah.
It's, the one thing I do want to say about it is every time the Video Game Awards comes up, somebody is just going off on it about how, like, this game isn't nominated, it's a travesty, or like advertisers have too much of a say. And like, look, is it a perfect award show? No, of course not. I don't think there is one, but man, I'm really glad Jeff Keighley is doing this because I don't see anyone else doing a showcase like this.
Are the Game Awards still relevant to today's customers? I'm not so sure that my son and his friends think of them as anything other than kind of just, oh, that's some fluff that I don't really care about. It has a lot of relevance to the games that I'm playing.
Pretty sure last year they had record numbers of streams of the show. So, you could fact check me on that one. I don't recall the details on it, but I do remember it's pretty widely watched. Kind of expect with just the quality of content this year, it'll probably get widely watched again.
Probably, and I do think still developers certainly keep an eye on it, right? We look at it and we think about what's been nominated and why it's been nominated. And I think to your point about Arc Raiders, I think that came late. I think a lot of people had some baked in preferences before that showed up. And I also think it was more clearly going to get lumped into that multiplayer category and go head to head with Battlefield 6 and all that other fun stuff.
So do you think the games industry becomes like the Oscars where there's award seasons and you time your release to get into the awards and like this is going to be the indie darling?
I don't think right now it has that level of relevance. Maybe it will someday, but I don't think at the moment the Game Awards have that level of relevance, but I could be wrong.
I kind of hope not. I mean, we already have all the pressure to release for the holidays. I don't think we need another artificial constraint.
For sure.
All right, so we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. We have got a special guest joining us to talk about indie games market, and it's Don Bellenger. Hey, Don.
Hey, guys. It is so cool to be here.
Don, we're thrilled to have you.
Absolutely. So you and I have worked together now. This is our
Twice.
Twice. Yeah.
Twice.
2 companies together. So it's crazy. Like, you're in rarefied air. Usually I burn every bridge of anyone I've ever worked with. No.
That's my move. You've seen me in action. That's what I do.
No, all kidding aside. But hey, Don, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're working on?
Okay. All right. So my name is Don. I'm an indie game developer when I'm not working for Rade. And I've been pretty much indie for like 10 years now, which is kind of crazy. It's peaks and valleys. I made a game called Black Future 88. Good Shepherd published it. We did a Switch release. We got a physical edition, which was cool. And since then, I've been working on a game called Nectarmancer, the beauty cult Nectarmancer. We are the beauty cult. And it's a really cool, high concept, high action Gardenvania where you use plants and you just like really mutate their genetics and do a lot of like freaky science stuff to them. And you build basically your super guns out of your plants. It's super cool. It's very visual. I worked with one other person on it. I worked with him on Black Future also. So we're a team of two trying to make an indie game. You see a lot of discourse around like, tiny teams. They're not really a team of three. Claire Obscure wasn't made by any less than like 1,000 people, people say on socials. But we are truly an indie team. We are two people. We do everything, and that's what I like about working in games.
So one of the things I liked about you is like you're not primarily just a software engineer, but you also understand game design and audio and really how it all fits together. And then from a production standpoint, when we're building a feature, you're not just implementing it, you have feedback on how to make it better, how to do it more efficiently, which I think is just a rare skill.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of it is, failing upwards through just all the difficult learning required for all these like different skills like sound design and VFX design. But that's, I think, our secret sauce as indies is like, we can actually do it all. And you get, I think, a really cool gameplay experience. You get these kind of like highly vertically oriented or integrated developers that can really do a feature like really end to end. And I think you get a better, or at least a different experience than you get in like AAA dev.
How do you feel about the indie market right now? How do you feel about the ability to break out and to get kind of noticed? And
grim, Dave. It's unbelievably grim. It's so bad. But, there's also really, we're talking about all the great games in the Game Awards. There's really good signal. It's still a lottery in like every sense of the word. And it takes enormous capital resources to even get a game to market these days. But, I think we've seen appetite for really crazy, really difficult games that are made by small teams. Publishers are interested in that. The market is interested in it. It's still, kind of equates to lifeguard money a lot of times, if you're even lucky to earn lifeguard money in games.
What has worked for you to get noticed and what kind of hasn't? What advice would you give to somebody trying to do this right now?
Man, just make the most amazing looking thing that you can. It's really all about how it looks, and you need really good stuff underneath that to shore it up, because eventually you need to go show it to somebody with a checkbook. But really, to get their attention, it is so unbelievably competitive in the funding space that you need something that looks incredibly unique. And I think it's all about the visual quality of what you're putting out.
So what would you say then for a small team that just couldn't necessarily afford a big art budget?
Yeah, I think it's in systemic post-processing, and you can still do a lot with stylized rendering. I don't think you should chase like a high-res photorealistic art style. You really need to match the art style to your resources and your resource constraints. And for us, it's always stylized rendering. That's cheap. It looks great. People are interested in it. It's fun to work on.
One of the things from a business standpoint, when I've advised indies, seen as a pain point is just their eyes are bigger than their stomachs. And they just tend not to scope the product to what they can actually achieve with the resources they've got. How do you guys approach that?
We can't, nobody can. I think estimating software is still the hardest part of any of this. I've been in software for 20 years. I'm not like any better at estimating how long it's going to take to build. It is so hard. We try though. I think we're mostly careful about our business process, about what we're working on and kind of how it relates to the overall pitch towards investment. Trying to build the whole thing with the resources we do have. I think we've tried that, and we've just seen kind of the velocity of development you get out of that. And I think holding yourself to certain quality standards and then measuring like the velocity it takes to finish a boss or finish an enemy or design an ability in that space will tell you a lot about your kind of real world chances for finishing your game under the budget you have.
Is Steam still the place to be?
Yeah, 100%. Unless there's free money that pulls you somewhere else. We got some free money, and that means we're going to be on the Epic Store. So sure. That's cool. It's hard to find free money now, though, from platforms.
How important do you feel that Steam Deck support is these days? Is that becoming more important for the small indie developer to think about?
Yeah, I think so. In our publishing agreement, it's actually mentioned like that we will support the Steam Deck, and that's new. I think that's kind of the first time I've kind of heard about that. But I see kind of the games that are succeeding at the small indie space at like the AA range. And they're killing it on Steam Deck. So I think it's a must.
So success you mentioned a couple times. What is success for you guys? What does it look like?
I think staying alive, honestly, at this point. Just getting to make our game right now is a huge win in today's market. And we're going to get paid to do it. And we have like a year of money in the bank right now for that.
Nice. I'm just going to date myself a little bit. I remember back in some of the early days in game development, Success was your studio, had a couple Ferraris parked out in front of it.
Yeah.
That set up a whole bunch of weird expectations of the games business overall. But I think your point about just keeping your head above water, like that is just so hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not in Ferrari land here. If I get a bike someday, that'd be cool.
An e-bike, or just are we talking like
I don't
human
know.
powered?
Bicycle, human powered, like a Craigslist, like a $50 bike. Like we're talking junior lifeguard money, Roddy. It's grim out there.
What do you guys do for, you're going to launch this thing. How do you market it? Is it word of mouth? Is it wish lists? What do you do?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that, to be honest, in the indie space. I've talked to a lot of people that are like, hey, our team can turn $10,000 of marketing money into $200 of sales. And that's the word from publishers. Like I've talked to some that have kind of given up on traditional like marketing, where they turn the marketed materials into foie gras and shove it down the throats of like social media users. I don't think that's worked for a long time. And I think if it did work, the world would look differently. I think for us, it's about engaging a community early, building a Discord, finding the actual subreddit with people that care about the shit and like engaging them, and then building the highest quality thing you can. I think that's the only thing that consistently wins at like the tier that we're playing at. Is just really high quality. Shipping something that is like a B- is not gonna work out.
It's almost a minimum bar now, right? You have to really knock it out of the park and have good quality just to even have a shot at that indie lottery ticket at the moment, right?
Yeah, and you have to do it for cheaper than anyone's ever done it before, which is I think what we are sort of maybe succeeding at a little bit. Is no one's ever made a AA Metroidvania for this cheap.
So on that cost front, I got to ask, since it's being talked about everywhere, how do you feel about using AI in development to bring down the cost?
We don't use it. It's just not a thing that we could get into. It doesn't really work well for pixel art, which is kind of the medium that we work in. And yeah, I think also we have a very bespoke, handcrafted thing that we put a lot of effort into, that I think we've seen that kind of show in what we're making, and we want to maintain that. So I think just at a creative level, AI, whether it's fast or not and speeds us up or not, is not really the right answer.
So related to that, would love to get you to weigh in on this, because I've been arguing with folks on social media about this. Arc Raiders used AI for their Questgiver VO. They paid the actors to do a AI sound alike and then generated that way, but they're getting a whole bunch of grief about it. I had my take on it. What do you think?
So I'm of two minds. I definitely have the part of me that is screaming no AI in games ever. So here, like, well, they kind of they did it right, or as right as you can, and they did something that generally like moves the bar forward. They did something that is novel in the medium. I like that too. I've not played Arc Raiders. I think I might need to just take a coward's way out and say I haven't played it. I could say, but I am definitely of two minds.
Fair enough. On the indie side of things, you mentioned like marketing being a thing that's different. Like I've heard that from AAA to mobile to everyone. It's just the predictability of I put X dollars in to promote the title. I get a certain number of customers on average for that. And then I'm managing how many of them will actually buy the thing that I'm selling. That's just broken. It doesn't work the way it does before. And there's just so much volatility and chaos in the space. I don't know. I mean, you guys, what do you think? How do we get out of this? Do we get out of this? What does it look like the next couple of years?
I've heard an indie studio advertising on KEXP, the Seattle radio station. It's the Behemoth. They run radio ads. I don't know if that works, but I'm kind of curious. But I think the traditional marketing tactics don't work anymore, and the scaling laws aren't right for it anymore. I don't know if there's a way back, but I think trying to find something that's new, a new way of reaching players, is kind of the only way forward.
The player base definitely feels very savvy to me these days. They are suspicious of traditional marketing, traditional advertisements. They kind of don't respond well if they feel like they're being pandered to or talked down to. They're very informed. They know what they want. I do think there are lots of creative ways to reach the niches for smaller games, but people have to stretch. Developers are going to have to get creative and try stuff like the radio ad that Don mentioned, and just some other vectors that we haven't tried before to see what'll work, what'll stick.
The radio ad's interesting because I mean I don't have any data that says that works or does not. One thing I've consistently heard from everyone is you have to go to where your customer is. You can't expect them to come to you anymore. And so that extends also to context. Like if I'm playing this, whatever, a super casual game while I'm waiting for the bus or something like that. Like what I'm looking for there is like not my hardcore PC or console game. So you got to be really cognizant about where your customer is and how you're going to reach them. All right, I didn't think we were going to have the answer for that. Sorry, everyone. If we did, we would open up our own publisher and we would have Ferraris parked outside.
Wait, we don't have all the answers here, Roddy? That's why people tune in, isn't it? Because we have all the answers?
Well, we try. We'll act like we do.
Yeah.
So what are some of the indie games that are exciting you right now, Don, that you might be playing or at least paying attention to?
Yeah, I'm always coming to stuff a little bit late, a little after the fact, except for Silk Song, which is kind of my main play right now. I got a lot of thoughts on it. I think that's its own. I'm not going to go there. I love it and I hate it, but I like a lot of weird indie stuff. I like a lot of small indie stuff. I'm playing this kind of weirdo roguelike deck builder called Nine Kings, which is cool. I think that's a hooded horse game. And then I also love playing games with my kid. We play this kind of couch battle game called Bopple Battle, which is, I think, to this day, the most fun I've ever had playing a video game. And we've introduced like a lot of kids to that game. That's super fun. And then I also play a lot of weirdo stuff like in the genre that I'm working in. So I'm playing a lot of like obscure Metroidvanias. Playing this one called Laika, Age Through Blood, where you're on a motorcycle the whole time. I think Head Up put that one out, and it's really interesting. It's really high fidelity and production level, but also like you're in an open world on a motorcycle, and you basically do like excite bike moves.
Oh, wow.
And they have like a very unique combat system that kind of works with like kind of riding a motorcycle through excite bike open world. It's cool. It's nice.
What's your feeling of there's sort of that genre that's coming up now, what I've heard it called friend slot.
Friend slot?
Yeah. Sort of typified by things like RV There Yet, which was done in, 3 weeks or something and slapped out on Steam. That kind of cuts against some of the stuff you're suggesting, right? Like super high polish and super high.
I don't play those games. That's not how, like, I don't play games with friends online. For whatever reason, I have friends, they're very 3D, and then I have like games I play, and when I play online, it's usually something very different. But I'm glad to see kind of movement in the genre definitions, and like, oh, here's what feels like something that's very new, that is very indie also. And it's cool to see them, do really well.
That might be a generational thing. Like I've been working with some younger folks in the gaming space, and generally Gen Alpha and I think Gen Z are just really, one of the things that they're looking for is speed to market. And so it's why some of these lower fidelity things like content in Roblox can do so well and blow up, is because like they're not necessarily looking for like high visual fidelity. They're looking for things that are timely and quick and can kind of catch and ride the wave of a meme or whatever's popular at the moment. The problem with that is, you might jump on the wave, but then the wave goes away pretty quickly. So like you got to strike while the iron is hot. I mean, again, I'm mixing a ton of metaphors here, but you know what I mean. You just can't spend a lot of money on something like that and expect to make a return or even break even.
Yeah, I've looked at Roblox games like as a, hey, do I want to do this? What's it like to compete in the space of like, hey, I caught a wave, let's go catch the next one. Seems a lot kind of like working in mobile games like 5 or 7 years ago or something. It's not quite live service games, but you're just kind of going from title to title. Yeah, it's cool. Information just moves so fast though. I don't think I have it in me to like crunch out a game like that, like again and again.
So there's a lot of folks that want to get into games still, despite all the reasons why we tell them like, don't do it, you're crazy. Go do something sane with your life. What advice would you give for anyone trying to break into the indie space, either as somebody who's worked on a project somewhere else or just they're new to it, but maybe they have some development experience?
I think finding a way to work with really good people in some capacity, that's the thing that skills you up the fastest. And working in the indie space, I think it's all about your skills. And I think a lot of people get into it really early because the job market is so upside down that they don't really have the skills to make anything that people are like going to get excited about. So I would say, even if it's not great, like find any studio that you can to work at. Like when we worked together on Tome, we had an amazing engineering team, and I couldn't do anything that I do now without having had that experience.
I have to ask you about, I know besides the games that you've mentioned that you've done as an indie developer, Black Black Future 88 and Nectarmancer. I know you had a little brush with one of the big indie darlings. You did a little work on RimWorld, right?
Yeah, yeah, I worked on that for a year. I worked on the Anomaly DLC, which is kind of their horror CP themed DLC.
That's certainly been one of my mainstays that I go back to year after year. I'd love to hear love to hear a little bit about your experience working with that team and kind of what you learned there.
Man, they have an incredibly high bar for quality. They also manage the organization a lot like a RimWorld base. Like, it's all very systems driven from the very top down to how information moves through the company. It goes one way and then you build this game that is incredibly systems driven. That is, I think, to this day, the finest code base I have ever been in. And that is 10 years old and it's been worked on continuously since then. And that, I think that says a lot to kind of their standards as at like the craft level. And that was really cool. That was really interesting. I was actually the first full-time artist that they ever hired. It was my first like working in an art level role. So that was interesting, and I did a lot of kind of visual effects stuff because all their stuff is extremely custom. The way they built it, it doesn't really use any part of the Unity engine except for like the editor and the camera a little bit. So everything is extremely custom, including their effects system, and it really can only be worked on by engineers, which is not so great. But when we launched it, it was a global top seller on Steam, and I'm like, yo, I'm never gonna get that again. I'm never gonna go work on like another global top seller on Steam, even if it was like for like 2 days before Palworld kicked it off again. It was crazy. That was, I think, a career highlight for me.
Well, I think you got to tell us about Nectarmancer a little bit, right? Are we ready for that already, or like?
Oh yeah, dude, we got to.
Yeah. Okay. So Nectarmancer, it's a science fantasy thing. It's very inspired by dark fantasy worlds like the Dark Crystal, where you are this basically a tax collector. You're actually kind of working for the bad guys, and the government you work for is called the Throne, and they're basically like North Korea mixed with the Church of Scientology. They're so bad. They're so bad, and you're out there just like extracting wealth from the people that that are not in prison camps. So you do this job, and you kind of stumble upon a conspiracy with plants, and these plants are alive because it's kind of this plant-run world, and you kind of figure some stuff out. You start to use these plants as like a computer system that's spread out through the world. Every time you plant stuff in the ground, it kind of links into this giant thing called the substrate, this giant computer that you're building. And you do kind of illegal research on your kind of super plant computer that you're always building. And then we have $30 boss fights is what we call them, which is like, hey, what's a boss fight you would see in like a real AA game? So we have these really massive boss fights, and the movement is very similar to like Ori and the Blind Forest. It's kind of this acrobatic movement with a small character. We have really good animation. My art partner is incredible. I've seen him get better and better every year that we've worked together, and we've now been working together for like 12 years. No, 10 years. So yeah, it's just a really neat game. I'm doing the soundtrack. I did the soundtrack for our first game, Black Future, and that was all like very synth punk stuff. And this is pretty expansive synthy soundscape stuff. It's all like really boutique analog synths that I'm borrowing and stuff. We had tried, when we were originally pitching for the game, we were trying to get a budget of like over $1 million. We actually got a contract with Alessandro Cortini from Nine Inch Nails to do our soundtrack, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. And then he basically like ghosted us, like went back on tour and had a baby and moved to Portugal. It was really cool. And then we kind of got a few other deals, but the goal was always to like try to save money and get like a really interesting soundtrack and not take all my time and has to go into it. But ultimately, I think the investment market moved down, and I'm now doing the soundtrack, and I'm excited about it. It's really fun. But it was not actually the original goal of kind of how we set up production.
So every time I hear the story of the journey that an indie game like this goes on, there's like just these fascinating little events that happen because you're doing a lot of unconventional type of stuff. I'm pretty sure that there's an indie game about making indie games that would be hilarious.
They exist.
Of course they do. Like, nobody has an original thought anymore. But man, I gotta go look for some of these and play them.
Yeah, I've always been like morbidly curious about these like indie game dev simulators. I'm worried I'm gonna like come out of it with like a lot of hurt feelings or like feeling bad about it or something.
Well, you gotta, like, my take on it would I would do it like the True Hollywood Story skit from the Chappelle Show, but just about like making an indie game or just another game. You're like, this is so crazy. Like Prince is serving me pancakes after schooling me in basketball, kind of nuts. And it's like, but it's true. Like these things really happen. We're not embellishing.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun. Say your elevator pitch hooked me. Like I knew what you were working on, having looked at some of the screens, but like hearing that first two sentences described, I'm like, all right, I'm in. I want to play this now.
Oh, thanks.
So,
thanks. It's gotten a lot of refinement. The concept itself is very organic, as that's what happens when you work on a thing too long.
Do you have a planned release date yet? Or
yeah, March 27th?
Okay.
Yeah, March 27th.
It's not too far.
Yeah, so we got our money. We're about to kind of hit the gas on it and make the thing and get it out.
Very nice. Exciting. Yeah. Exciting times.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So anything you want to shout out about that you're seeing in the indie community that you like, you hate, you wish would be different?
Oh, like all of it. I really yearn for the indie space of 2014. Like if I could go back there, that'd be pretty great. I don't know. I think everything is generally trending in the right direction despite like market pressures, trying to devalue it to the absolute, value of zero. But I think in general, people are making really good games. People are very thirsty to play interesting new games. There's really talented young people entering the space or dying trying, something like that. And I think I'm excited, as much as I don't ever want to watch the Game Awards, to see so many indies in a running for, best game ever, more or less. That's an exciting time. So I don't know. I think just, for all the weirdos out there, they should keep making it weird and make, things that they're really proud of.
What is your game of the year? It doesn't have to be an indie, but what do you want to see win this year, even if it's not on the list?
Probably Silksong. I don't know. That game is a marvel. That game is truly a masterpiece at just the production level. Even if I think it is too hard, that just at the production level is just an amazing piece of craft.
You said you have some good rants about positive and negative. I definitely want to hear that sometime. I think my old man gamer skills are no longer capable of playing a game like Silksong, but I am very impressed with what they've done.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Some of the mechanics, I'm like, it's a little bit too twitchy for me. I just stopped playing games that make me want to throw a controller. I used to grind through that. Now I'm like, man, there's just too much other stuff. Like, I don't need this. So it's good and it's bad. All right. Well, that's it for time. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Don, for joining us. It's good to hear your perspective on things.
Thanks, Don. And we'll provide links to Don's things in the description. Now I know that we can't actually put them on the video. I'm learning about this whole deal.
I'll just say go wishlist Necromancer on Steam. Go do that right now.
Everyone should go wishlist Necromancer for sure. So
100%.
Don, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Subscribe if you haven't. All right. Take care, everyone.